Yo, what is up, guys? The NBA is back. We got some good promos on Underdog Fantasy as well as on PrizePicks. So if you take a look at PrizePicks, they have a discount on the Spurs hot young player. So long story short, we'll be looking for a bunch of plays kind of on Underdog on PrizePicks. What's great about the NBA is there's a lot of games and there's a lot of line movements. So if you think about, if you want a good Twitter account to follow, Underdog NBA is a great one. When official starting lineups are released, when players get injured, when players sit out games, all sorts of stuff like that is going to massively move around lines where books have their, odds posted. And it leads to a lot of line movements. So you can see there's a bunch of good bets kind of on ParlayPlay, on Underdog Fantasy. So we'll kind of look through these platforms, try to find some value. And you can see the line movements here. You can pull up a little line movement chart. But without further ado, let's kind of start out with Underdog Fantasy and let's just see what we can find. So let me go ahead and I can refresh this. I'm also not sure what exactly this promo is. So you can see this is a boost. This is a boost that Underdog Fantasy is running. It's only a $10 max, but usually for 2-pick entries, they only give you a 3x payout. But with this promo, it looks like they're boosting it up to 4x. So we'll take a look at that as well. But anyways, without further ado, let's kind of take a look at the options we have. So the first play OddsJam's recommending on Underdog Fantasy is Russell Westbrook under 30 points plus rebounds plus assists. So I say this in every video, but I obviously follow a very data-driven approach. So what we can do is we can pull up Russell Westbrook right here and just see where other books are posting his line. So again, what's crazy about sports betting is all of these books, they all set different odds from one another. They all set lines independently. If every sports book had the exact same odds, we wouldn't need hundreds of them. But you can see right here, Russell Westbrook, what are we looking at? PRAs, no way. It looks like, this is crazy. So if we pull up Russell Westbrook, you can see Underdog Fantasy has his line at 30. Okay. So if you look at all the other sports books, Underdog's at 30, right? PrizePicks has his line at 28.5. ParlayPlay is 29.5. FanDuel's all the way down at 27.5, right? So if you look at Russell Westbrook right here, they have his line at 27.5 with the under a little juiced. So again, even if you don't use FanDuel or all these other books like ParlayPlay, they're all just sources of information, right? And you can see every book has his line at 28.5, 29.5, or 27.5. So Underdog clearly has their line too high, right? So there's value on the under. So this is the first play we can go with. And again, what's important to remember about, these fantasy platforms is on PrizePicks, they only give you a 5x payout for 3-pick entries, whereas on Underdog Fantasy, any 3-pick entry you create, and I'll try to move quickly on this Westbrook play, but on Underdog Fantasy, and again, NBA, there's a lot of games, NFL, 3 days a week, right? There's a ton of games, and there's also a lot of line movements, which is why the NBA is a great sport to bet on. But you can see Underdog Fantasy has a 6x payout for these 3-pick entries. PrizePicks only 5x, so it does kind of matter how many picks you go with. But anyways, the first pick we're going to go with is Russell Westbrook, taking him to go under. Underdog Fantasy is a real simple platform. If you win above 55% of your picks, so if you can win these over-unders, if you go through the math behind Underdog Fantasy, what you're going to see is all you got to do to be profitable, is be able to win these over-unders, just like Westbrook over-under 30.5, 30 PRAs. All you got to do is win these player props above 55% of the time. Get these over-unders correctly above 55% of the time. So why is this play winning above 55%, of the time? Is we're just following the data, right? All the other books have his line significantly lower, 27.5, 29.5. Caesars, right? They have his line at 29.5 with the under heavily favored. FanDuel has line all the way down, so we're using all these books as a source of information. But anyways, we found the first play with value. So what we can do next is just kind of see what other plays are out there. So the next play OddsJam has is Tyus Jones under 7.5 assists. So we can take a look at this play as well. You can see all the books have the under heavily favored. So what we can do, so again, on Underdog, it's very simple. You win, your over-unders above 55% of the time, you're going to be profitable. So why do we want to take Tyus Jones assists? And also what's nice is they're giving me $500 max bet size for NBA. They only give me $100 if I include a football play. So if I go to like, football, whatever, and I add in some random pick on like Baker Mayfield, it says max size allowed is $100. For NBA only slips, it looks like they're letting me get down 500, which is nice. But if we go over to player assists, so where is this play? So if we go over to player assists and we look at Tyus Jones, right, you're going to see DraftKings has his under heavily favored, right? So DraftKings, even if you don't use DraftKings, you don't bet on DraftKings, right? It's a source of information. It's a $10 billion company. It's a sophisticated sports book that's setting lines, and they're telling you, hey, he's a lot more likely to go under as opposed to over. So I'm taking the under. And that will be the second pick we go with. And there are just a lot of good plays. Next, we have in the Magic Rockets game, Jalen Green under 23 points. So it looks like books are struggling, with NBA, especially on Underdog Fantasy. There's a lot of opportunity right now. So on Underdog Fantasy, we can get him under 23 points, Jalen Green. So let's go back here. Jalen Green under 23 points. So this is going to be a little 3-pick play for today. So where's Jalen Green's points line on DraftKings? So we can just take a look at all the books. And again, this fantasy optimizer, it's not doing anything complicated. So DraftKings has his line at 22.5 with the under favorite, right? So we're just looking at all these books, kind of treating them as a source of information. FanDuel has his line at 21.5. So they're saying, hey, right, like his line should be lower at 21.5. Caesars 22.5 with the under heavily favored, right? They have the under heavily favored and they have the line lower. So not only do they have the line lower, right, at 22.5, but they have the under heavily favored. So again, a lot of these line movements and plays occur when players get injured, stuff like that. So, official starting lineups are released. The market's always moving. Just like after an earnings report, if a company's making a lot of money, you may see the stock price pop and go up because the market is reflecting new information that like, hey, the company's doing well, they're making a lot of money. But anyways, we have our first 3 picks, and I'm going to slam this for $500. And we got a nice little 3-pick entry. So there we go. I guess that'll be my first play on live stream for Underdog Fantasy NBA. So we can go back here and we can refresh this. 3 unders. If unders are where the value is, that's what, I'll be betting in. There's no NFL value right now. Obviously, there's only one game tomorrow. Today, there's a shit ton of there's just a lot of there's a lot of NBA. So what we can do next is, the more bets you place, the better. Like I got down 3 really good plays with an edge. But of course, the more bets I can place with an edge, the better. So what we want to do is I can head over here to points plus rebounds plus assists, and we can look at Kuzma. So here again, like clear value. FanDuel has his line at 30.5. Again, maybe, you don't use FanDuel, but it's still a $10 billion sports book. They have really good models, better models than you have. You're not going to create a better model than FanDuel Sportsbook, a $10 billion company. They have their line higher. All these books have their line higher. Caesars, line's at 28.5 with the over favored. Again, all you got to do on Underdog to be profitable is win your picks 55% of the time to be profitable. So we just go back here and we can start a play with Kyle Kuzma PRAs. It is crazy how much value there is on these books right now. So where do we want to go to next? So we already have Russell Westbrook. We already have Tyus Jones. Again, I'm only getting an $100 max bet size. Ooh, baby. So here we go. We got James Wiseman under 4 rebounds. So let's take a look at this play. Not doing anything complicated. Just kind of, again, like I follow a very data-driven approach. I know that you can't just like outsmart the sports books. That's not the way to make money long term. That's not the way to get an edge. It's like if you want to be a poker player, you don't just show up at the table not understanding the strategy and try to bluff your way into winning millions of dollars and winning tournaments. That's not going to work, right? There's a strategy. You got to understand the basics. And you can see Hot Streak. They have Wiseman's line at 3.5 with the under favored. FanDuel line at 3.5, unders favored. Caesars line at 3.5, under favored. So we're using all these books as a source of information. And it becomes pretty clear, like, hey, getting Wiseman under 4 rebounds seems like a decent play that we can go with. So that's what we'll go with. Tyus Jones, we already have a play, so I'm not going to be able to bet it again. But you can see there's just a lot of discrepancies showing up right now, which is, I mean, that's great. It's great for us. So next we have Sadiq Bey. So we can check out him. This is in the Hawks-Hornets game. And this is another good play to go with. So there's a lot of NBA today, which is obviously a good thing. More games, more profitable betting opportunities. So we can pull up, player points for the NBA. And we can bet this. Take a look at the market. PrizePicks has his line at 12.5. Underdog Fantasy has his line at 11.5. So pretty simple. Fliff, Caesars, they have his line at 11.5, but they have the over heavily favored. Pinnacle, which is known to be the sharpest bookmaker, the smartest sports book, they have his line at 11.5 with the over heavily favored. So all these things kind of we're using to indicate to us that, hey, this is a pick winning above 55% of the time. So it's profitable in an underdog fantasy entry. Here we have Victor, under 3.5 steals plus blocks. I mean, there's a bunch of different options that you could go with. Azur Thompson over 15.5 points plus rebounds. So this play seems good. Points plus rebounds. So this play also pairs pretty well with the play on James Wiseman, right? Taking one player's under and then his teammates over. Teammates, they kind of compete for rebounds. If one player goes over, another, the other player is more likely to go under. And then what do we like? Brandon Miller over 8.5 points. Rookie. So maybe we go with this. And now we have a nice little 5-pick entry. So again, the number of picks you go with on each of these platforms, it does matter. So Underdog Fantasy, you want to go with 5-pick entries with insurance, 4-pick entries with insurance, or 3 picks with no insurance, right? Just because, again, they have different payouts. PrizePicks only 5x for these 3-pick entries. Underdog 6x. So when you kind of break down the math behind Underdog Fantasy, and you can see I have my little spreadsheet that goes through the math of, every type of slip on Underdog and kind of what's optimal, you'll see that, 3 picks, no insurance, 5 picks with insurance are kind of the optimal slip type. 5 picks with insurance is actually a little better. So, I mean, hey, this is what we're going to go with. I mean, there are a shit ton of bets in this game or just in general on Underdog Fantasy. So James Wiseman rebounds, they already removed. So that's a little annoying. Again, like Underdog, to get down these really good plays, whether you're arbitrage betting, whatever you're doing, like you got to move quickly. Arbitrage betting is amazing. It's amazing in NBA season. Arbitrage is, when these books get so out of sync with one another that you can see there's a ton of arbitrage bets. Some days there's not that many. During an NBA season, there's a shit ton. So arbitrage is when these books get so out of sync that you can bet the over on one book. Because all these books have different odds from one another, you can bet the over on one book, the under on another book, and make a risk-free profit. So like here between FanDuel and Fliff, and we have some videos, some tutorial videos on arbitrage, but it's pretty simple. You need multiple sports books to be a great arbitrage bettor. All these books have different odds from one another. Here's an arbitrage bet between FanDuel and Fliff. You could lock it in, make a risk-free profit of $56. Or Fliff has a max bet size of $250, so $31.61. So there's a lot of good arbitrage bets right now as well. It's like overwhelming to figure out what to focus on with all these freaking games. Brandon Miller over 8.5 points. Okay. And again, like odds aren't static. I think that's what was so fascinating to me when I started sports betting. This game starts at 4, so a lot of games are starting here in a bit. But that is what was extremely fascinating to me at first about sports betting, is how much this market moves. And it makes sense, right? Like lineups changing, key news to watch, questionable players, right? If Luka doesn't play, that affects the whole game, right? Who else is going to score points on the Mavericks if Luka isn't playing? If Luka's not playing, all these other players, their points line, their stat line has to move higher. So if you look at like Brandon Miller, look at his over. I mean, it moved from minus 105 to minus 172 over the last, 40 minutes on FanDuel. So his over went from being a slight favorite to now a really big favorite. So this plays really good on Underdog Fantasy. So let's go back here and let's just kind of refresh this. Because we have 4 picks, all overs. Maybe we can find something else to go with if we want to. Brandon Miller, Dennis Schroeder over 13.5 points plus rebounds this game's today. And sometimes there's value in such random markets, but so Kyle Kuzma, they just locked. So again, like some of these plays, you really want to move quickly on. James Wiseman under 6.5 points. So it's like, okay, so we can take Wiseman under 6.5 points. This play pairs well with Thompson as well. So maybe we take that. I mean, there are just a ton of plays, tons and tons of plays available right now. So again, like things move quickly. So I'll try to get down this play quickly. And we have a nice little 5 pick on Underdog Fantasy. So here we go. $500 to win. Again, if you're playing 5 pick entries with insurance is a little better. If you go through the math behind Underdog, 5 picks with insurance is a little better. So this will be the $500 play I lock in. $500 to win $5,000. All these plays pair well together too. Miller over, Bay over. Anyways. So we could sit here all day and hit more plays. I'm sure PrizePicks has some good plays as well. Actually, PrizePicks is pretty dialed in. Most of the value on PrizePicks is in esports. At least that's what it appears like. So it looks like most of the NBA value today is on Underdog Fantasy as well as ParlayPlay. We came close on ParlayPlay on a few of these plays this weekend, but nothing ended up hitting. Damn. But you can see there are a shit ton of, maybe we got to make a little ParlayPlay slip. So again, like more books you have, the more profitable bets there are going to be. Some days there's really good value on Underdog. Other days it's ParlayPlay. So I just kind of bounce around from tool to tool. I know these lines are going to move quick, so knowing how to navigate these books is also useful. So I'll lock in some plays on Underdog Fantasy, head over to ParlayPlay, then maybe head back to the arbitrage tool, lock in some arbitrage bets, make some risk-free money, right? Arbitrage is when these books get so out of sync, you can bet the over on one book, the under on another book, and make a risk-free profit. And there's a ton on Fliff. And what's nice about Fliff is this sports book is legal, basically everywhere. So, but you got to move quickly. To be a good arbitrage bettor, you really do have to move quickly. The great lines, they're not going to last forever, but you can see there are a shit ton of arbitrage bets right now, a lot on Fliff. But anyways, if we go back to ParlayPlay, we can look at some of these early NFL lines. So if we take a look at like Bryce Young, I mean, it's like, what are they doing? They open his line at 215.5. This is all possible because all books set lines independently. So again, all these OddsJam tools are doing, all the optimizers doing is scanning the market. Underdog, now with the NBA back, I mean, they have tens of thousands, probably 50,000 lines on their site, Underdog Fantasy. All this different crap you can bet, maybe 100,000 lines. And they're doing it independently. All these books have their own models, setting lines, yada, yada, yada. So as a sharp bettor, we're just kind of, hunting through the market, looking for plays with value. So if you look at Bryce Young, every other book, and you can see they just adjusted him to 232.5. His line was just 215.5, but you'll notice it disappears. They adjusted him to 232.5. So you're kind of day trading the sports books. I mean, that really is how you make money. Like a lot of people like to think it's just sitting there and being like, oh, the Lakers are going to win. That's not how it works, right? If you want to make money sports betting, it is about following the data, finding these inefficiencies in the market to make profits. So here we have a play for the Wizards game. So if we go back to NBA player PRAs, we can take a look at Jordan Poole and just kind of see his line is 34.5 PRAs, points plus rebounds plus assists. So if we take a look at Jordan Poole, his line is 34.5 on ParlayPlay, PrizePicks 33.5, right? FanDuel 32.5, Underdog 33.5. All these other books 33.5. Pinnacle, known to be the sharpest bookmaker out there, they have his line at 33.5 with the under slightly favored, right? They have the under a bit favored. So this is another platform. ParlayPlay works just like PrizePicks. You take the over, you take the under, you get the same payout, right? Your payout doesn't change. You're always getting the same payout. So just like PrizePicks, they give you a 5x payout for these 3-pick entries, which is crappy, and we know it's crappy, again, because Underdog Fantasy is giving us a 6x payout for these 3-pick entries, right? 500 to win $3,000. So they're giving us a 6x payout. So anyways, so we're finding a bunch of plays with an edge, locking them in. So here we go. We got Kyle Kuzma over 28.5 PRAs. So let's take a look at this. All the other books have his line higher. I think on Underdog, we were trying to get this. I don't think we ended up getting it down, but I think we were trying to get him over 28. So this actually pairs very well with Jordan Poole under, right? These plays pair well together. Like if Kyle Kuzma is taking most of the scoring, he's more likely to go over. Jordan Poole's more likely to go under. So these plays are a little positively correlated, right? Taking players on the same team, one to go over, one to go under. I mean, here's another one. Simons over 29.5 PRAs. All the other books, PrizePicks has him at 31. All the sports books, 30.5, 31. Simons is line too low on ParlayPlay. Again, this is how you beat the books. You just follow the data. I mean, it's really nothing that complicated. You can obviously skip over plays. If you hate Simons tonight, you can skip over this play, whatever. But, like, it's very simple, right? Like, you need to be finding value in the market. If you're placing bets on PrizePicks on Simons over 31 PRAs, when you could get the exact – it's the same bet, right? Like, you can get this 29.5 on ParlayPlay. If you're betting his over 31 when you could be getting over 29.5, you're getting ripped off, right? The stock market, there's one price. So it doesn't matter if you do a trade really on Fidelity or an investment. It doesn't matter, right? You can invest in Facebook on Fidelity, E-Trade, Robinhood. Who cares? It's the same price. There's one price. What's crazy about sports betting is the exact same bet. All these books have the lines at different levels. And this isn't like a get-rich-quick thing, but finding plays with an edge, 29.5. Rest of the market has this line at 30.5. Like, that's how you beat the books long term. Find value in the market. Just follow the data. It's not fucking complicated. Kyrie Irving, points plus rebounds. Let's see. And it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win. You could be the best poker player in the world. You're still going to get dealt 2-7 sometimes, and you're going to lose a hand, right? Betting with an edge, that's what's hard, is you need to track your bets. And unless you're arbitrage betting, which is, again, risk-free money, when these books get super out of sync, if you know how to navigate them quickly, you can bet the over on one book, the under on another book, just like here, and make a risk-free profit. So that's arbitrage betting. But in general, sports betting, you're going to have ups and downs. But when you have an edge, you'll notice week after week after week, you're making money. So next we have Kyrie Irving under 34.5 points plus rebounds. All the other books have his line at 33.5. Damn. So there are just bets like crazy today. Crazy. Jaren Jackson over 27.5 PRAs. So that's why I recommend, too, just having as many of these sports books as possible And you and bet on as many sports as possible too. Like sometimes there's really good bets in the NBA. Sometimes it's the NFL. All the books have Jimmy Butler's line at 20 and 8.5 PRAs. This play seems decent too. College football. Heinrich, all the books have his line at 63.5. Fliff is sitting here at 58.5. Nebraska rushing yards. So maybe we take this as our final pick. That's pretty simple. I just find 6 plays with an edge, all based in data, all have a mathematical advantage. $60, $2,400 profit if we win. The optimal slip type on ParlayPlay is these 6-pick entries. So I just kind of follow the tool. I mean, it's really not that complicated. Following the fucking tool. Finding these big discrepancies. Obviously, the bigger the discrepancy, the better. If there's a play where PrizePicks has the line at 30, all the other books are at 26, then you're getting 4 points of value versus the rest of the market. Whereas if it's 30 versus 29, that play's obviously not as good. But you can see on this platform, ParlayPlay, I'm up $5,300 in profit, 20% ROI approximately. You know, they only have $60 max bet sizes on this platform. But the strategy is pretty simple. It's kind of like if you were a day trader. This is the price of Facebook. If I told you, hey, I'll let you buy my Facebook stock at $200, that'd be a good trade, right? Because it's trading in the market, right? This is the price where supply and demand meet. This is the equilibrium point, the fair price of Facebook, right? Every day, investors, millions of people wake up and their full-time job is thinking, is Facebook overvalued or undervalued? And this is the price that's currently trading at in the market, $299.53. So if you could buy that 200, that'd be a fucking no-brainer, right? The price where supply and demand is equal for all the smart investors and everyone in the world is $299.53. You'd be getting $99 of value to the price of the market. And if the price of Facebook should be lower, it already would be lower. There's millions of investors who can wake up every day and sell Facebook if they want to and push the price down. This is the price where supply and demand is equal. So that's why you follow market information. And it's no different in sports betting. No different. You know, when I was a trader, I traded a bunch of different sectors. It's the same thing, right? A bunch of different products, options, stocks, you know, calls, puts, like it doesn't matter, right? You're using market information to your advantage. It doesn't matter if you're betting on sports, if you're trading stocks, like you got to be doing that. Anyways, it's overwhelming how many bets there are right now. I think I'll call it a day. Be back in a little bit, but there's some really good bets on Underdog, PrizePicks, stuff like that. So hopefully this live stream was helpful.